Welcome to the Private Practice Pro podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping therapists cultivate success. Here's your host, Kelley Stevens.
This podcast is sponsored by Simple Practice. I've been using Simple Practice since 2016, which has helped me run a smooth and profitable private practice over the years. It has simplified everything from scheduling to billing, giving me a better balance between the work I'm so passionate about and the family time I'm not willing to miss out on. Check out the episode notes to get a free 2-month trial of Simple Practice, my preferred all-in-one HIPAA-compliant solution.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Private Practice Pro podcast. I have Jenna Overbaugh here. And Jenna, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell us, first of all, where you're sitting, like what state you're in. And tell us about your practice and your business. You have a lot of different things going on. So let's hear it.
Yeah. So I am in Wisconsin. I love Wisconsin. I am like full Wisconsin. I through and through love the Packers, love cheese curds. I also love beer. So it's beautiful here. Oh my gosh, we're just coming out of a horrendous winter, but I'm also licensed in Pennsylvania and Ohio. But
that's good to know.
Mostly I have been focusing on, although I still see some people private practice, and I think it's really important to never divert from that completely. I've been focusing more. So I've always loved teaching so much more.
Yeah.
I have always had like teacher bones in me, and I've always had business and like entrepreneur bones in me. So thank goodness for all of this modernization of therapy and mental health, right? Because it really truly has been the perfect complement to what I've always wanted to do, which is teach people these skills and to teach people about these concepts, but in a much more widespread format. So I have a podcast. At the beginning of COVID, I started a podcast and it really took off. I started on social and that really took off, but now I have digital courses. I have started to become just also really passionate about helping other budding therapists who want to break free from this, like a hospital setting or, working for a group practice or whatever it might be, just being able to break into whatever it is that they want to do. Because being a therapist forever and like only doing therapy is incredibly exhausting. And it's okay to not just want to do therapy forever.
Yeah.
I think a lot of
use
therapists
different parts of your brain. Yeah.
Yeah. I work with so many therapists who are like very timid and very shy to be able to say like, I just don't want to do therapy forever. And it's like, it's okay to say that. Like,
that's
you're
totally
not a bad therapist. You're not a bad person for not wanting to do therapy, just therapy one-on-one forever. That is extremely exhausting, right? Like we absorb all of that energy. And honestly, like, I think like, obviously there are exceptions, but I think people who want to be therapists forever, they're probably new, right? They're probably like just out of grad school or like they don't really know what they're in for. Like, I think that it is totally normal and totally valid that as you become an expert in your craft, you don't want to do the one-on-one anymore. You want to, move into other aspects. But I feel like we're pulled back because we have these like altruistic, drives that we have to constantly be of service and we have to do what's good for our clients. And it's like, we can still be great therapists and not do therapy forever.
Yes, totally. And like, I could so vividly remember being in my last year of graduate school and another, fellow student telling me like, you're eventually going to hit some burnout and you're going to want to do things other than one-to-one therapy. And I was genuinely not even just like surprised, but offended. Like, no, I'm not. You don't know me. And it's like,
but I do this forever.
Yeah, like I'm going to see clients for the rest of my life. And look, like maybe I will, but I think it's so normal in careers to have like an ebb and a flow, and you want to just use different parts of your brain, and like different as your life changes, and like whether it's motherhood or careers or marriage or divorce or whatever it is, like life happens too, and you have to change what's going on for you, So I agree with that. And okay, but we didn't, before we move on, because we're going to go, I have a feeling, is tell us your niche area, because let's talk a little bit about OCD and like what you create content online, and like tell us about who your clients are, your audience is, and why you
So
love what you do.
I have always been an anxious anxious person. But a lot of people would be like, "Oh my gosh, that surprises me," and that's the essence of me. So even as a kid, I was super anxious. Like going to a new school, I would freak out and get nauseous. Oh my gosh, who am I going to sit with at lunch? What if the teacher calls on me? But even from a very early age, like heads up, 7 up style, like that young.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm dating
Heads
myself
up,
by
7 Up. Oh my God.
Yes.
I forgot about Heads Up, 7 Up.
Yes.
I'm going to
But
like teach my son to play that.
I remember being like, oh my gosh, what if I pick the wrong person and everyone looks at me? And I remember even then
Yeah.
intentionally picking the wrong person because there was something in me that didn't like for this anxiety entity to win. Like
Wow.
it was a very, in hindsight, right? Like it's very wise. And
Yeah.
I don't know. I knew that it was like this anxious part of me that was incongruent with how I wanted to be and like how I wanted to live my life. And I also knew that like if I didn't sit with those scary people at lunch, the next day at lunch would be harder, right? And I knew that on a very like intimate level just as a kid. And so even though I was anxious,
how did you know?
I would
because
go.
most kids don't. Like, how did you?
I don't know. I think I've always been a wise soul. You know, I had to, as most therapists, right? Like we have certain things that probably have influenced us in one way or another to want to do the work that we do. And, you know, my growing up life wasn't easy. I had a single mom and there was a lot of like volatility going on. And, you know, like I just always promised myself like that I wouldn't be like that. Like that I didn't want to live my life that way. Like my mom was really anxious and I didn't want to live my life that way. And so I think I just figured it out. And as cheesy as it sounds, I think sometimes things are meant to be. Like, I think that you are like, you kind of have this, like, you know, certain sets of talents and you are truly meant to do something. And so, yeah, I always, that was just my way of being. I knew throughout the life, like that I wanted to be a therapist, but I didn't want to be like that kind of therapist, right? Like back in 2005 or the 2000s.
Yeah.
Back then it was very much like, let's talk about it. How does it make you feel? And like, you know, people coming to you with a whole bunch of problems. I didn't want that. I wanted to be more
some
active.
parts of this still are, right? Some parts of therapy still are. Yeah.
And that's fine. And I'm down for that, you know, like selectively, but I also wanted to be active. I wanted to go and do stuff. I wanted to be there with you. I wanted to pump people up. And so I was like, I just don't know how this, like, what job is that? Like, what job is that? And then very serendipitously, I went to, it was an intro to psych course in college. And I always think like, what if I didn't go to class that day? Or like, what if I didn't have that teacher? We actually learned all about OCD and anxiety, and we learned about exposure and response prevention, which is crazy.
That's crazy, right? In an intro to psych class. Yeah.
Crazy. And I was like, this is it. This is it. I remember exactly where I was sitting and like what desk I was in, front and center, obvi. But I was like, this is it. Like, this is it. Like, this is it. Everything that I did from that point on. Every research paper, every internship, every summer job, every poster presentation, like everything that I did, it had to do, I wanted it to be about ERP. I wanted it to be about OCD. I wanted it to be about anxiety. I wanted to learn as much as possible about it. And I wanted to like be as much of a master in this topic as possible. Like I wanted to be an ERP therapist. And then, you know, did everything that I could there. You know, my first summer job, like in between my freshman and sophomore year, I went and found a children and adolescent IOP in Pittsburgh. And I worked with them. It was
specifically
like
for OCD anxiety or
I mean, as you know, with kids, it's kind of like a mixed bag, but I mean, that was primarily what we did. Like we did start to implement it. We did exposures with them and we did kind of like token economies to try to motivate them towards doing higher level exposures. It was really great, but went to grad school to focus more on it and worked a lot actually with people who hoard and their family members, which is a related condition.
Right.
Worked at Johns Hopkins Hospital, which was an incredible experience. And then I worked at Rogers Memorial Hospital, which is one of the very, very few residential OCD and anxiety treatment recovery centers.
Yeah.
And residential is, for those who don't know, it's 24/7. So it's the most debilitating cases of OCD and anxiety in the world. Like people who literally cannot eat, they can't sleep, they can't go to the bathroom. And so that was like 8 or so years of the most intense OCD cases in the world. And I attribute everything to that. And I had some other experience after that.
Internship at Rogers, or you worked there, or how long?
I worked there. I worked there for like 8 years.
Wow. So really interestingly, in my personal life, I have 2 good friends who went through Rogers as kids.
I believe it.
And yeah, I think like, I don't want to share too much about their story on my podcast, obviously, but it makes me want to cry because I think it was life-changing for them. And
totally.
And I think sometimes people don't realize how debilitating OCD really can be for your life.
Oh my gosh.
I think, people think of it, I'm maybe not as therapist, but I think oftentimes people think of it as like, oh, I just want to be clean, or I just, these stereotypes. And it's like watching the friends that I had go through Rogers as young, adolescents. It was debilitating, and I think it was life-changing.
I've worked with people who drank bleach because they didn't want their insides to be contaminated. I've worked with people who couldn't get out of a building because of when there was a fire alarm, because they needed every step to be forgiven by God, right? I can't take the step forward until I know that God has forgiven me for this thought, right? And it's awful. It's absolutely debilitating. And so, but everything really took a turn in 2018 when I had my son. So keep in mind, in 2018, I had already been doing this for 10 years, right? So I had I thought I knew everything. I was so ignorant going into motherhood. I was like, I'm like immune to OCD. Like I know everything there is to know about OCD. I would never give in to an intrusive thought. I would never have my husband do something like an accommodation for me. I would never do that. 2 weeks into having my newborn, he's so cute and vulnerable and squishy, and I could just kill him. I could just kill him.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, like that's a horrible thought. I never want to have that thought again. Yeah. I remember holding my hands up and being like, I don't want to do, I don't want to do anything that is going to allow me to have that thought again. Yeah. And it got so bad that by the end of my maternity leave, 3 months later, the only reason I didn't check myself into the residential treatment center that I worked at was because I needed to go back to work there. Like I should have, by all means, I would have met the admission criteria to be there.
Yeah, I get it. So, I mean, and I think it's something like, especially that early motherhood time, people don't talk about it, or like I've had friends come to me and say similar things about, I'm having these intrusive thoughts about hurting my kid. And obviously I would never do it, but I can't get this thought to come out of my, and they'll say like, but there's no way I'm getting help, or this is just like something, like I don't have time, or I don't have whatever. So, well, and I think part of that is what's so cool about a lot of the resources you offer. Like people can do them at home. People can, like especially moms, where they feel like I can't check myself in because I have to go back to work, or I have to, not that it's an alternative, but I think that is really cool that you offer so many things that people can do from home.
Well, and I think like, obviously we want everyone to have a therapist, but when it comes to OCD, like you had referenced, right, there's so many misconceptions. And I think as therapists, it's a little bit better, and definitely better than it used to be. Yeah. But still, I mean, there's research that's been done that when you give a professional a non-conventional kind of vignette of OCD, non-conventional meaning anything but the traditional and typically talked about need for cleanliness and fear of germs. Right. If it's any type of presentation outside of that, 80% of the time it is misdiagnosed.
Yeah, I
That's
believe
a big
that.
deal. And especially when you're struggling with like harm intrusive thoughts and sexual unwanted intrusive thoughts,
Right.
you could very easily get misdiagnosed as having a psychotic disorder. And all of a sudden, right, like you're taken away, your baby is taken away from you.
Yeah.
And women know that. Like women know that. I say women, but this could happen to any new parent, right? So, yeah, I mean, I would love for people to have a therapist, but we have to think more critically. We have to think about, I would rather them have my stuff. I've been doing this for like 15 plus years and be able to implement it than go to a therapist in person who has no idea what they're talking about. Like it's not always that straightforward and simple.
Right. Or get reported or get, I think about like friends in this situation and like having those entry level resources too, having resources that they can access online at home and take a little bit of the stigma away and to be able to feel like, oh, this is normal. This is something people struggle with. I'm not, I've had friends be like, I'm a monster. Like I'm having these thoughts, and it's like, no, this is like OCD. This is a disease. Like this is normal. You need treatment and you need help. Those entry level products and services sometimes give people the ability to then go ask for help because they know who to ask now. They know what a good OCD therapist is, ideally.
And always. Not even to talk about like the very basic logistical barriers, right? Like I charge $200 an hour. That's a lot. Yeah. And it's not like we're going to see people for one session, right? Like that's an investment. And so like if they can get a little bit of symptom relief by watching a $39 masterclass, it's just a no-brainer, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, 100%. I'm so happy to see, like, obviously ideally therapy is great. And I wish that every person who has OCD could go to a therapist like me or like the next best great OCD and anxiety therapist, but that's just not possible.
Oh, of course not. So, okay, so tell me from that point that you go back to work, you've had your son, you're struggling. How do you get from that point to where you are now? What happened?
So what really struck me, I remember again exactly where I was. I was like out in the hallway looking out at it was a sunny day like it is today. And I was like, how am I struggling so much with this? And I have all the education that I have and I have all the context. Like there was never a time where I didn't know what I was struggling with. I knew from the get-go that it was OCD or like obsessions and compulsions, and then it became disordered, right? I knew what I was having were intrusive, unwanted thoughts and that they didn't necessarily mean anything about me, right? Like I knew all of the pieces in a logical way, and it still didn't matter. I was like, I don't care. The stakes are too high. I am not going to do anything. I don't care. Like, I don't care what logically or educationally I know to be true. I'm not getting in the car with my son because I could hurt him, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I couldn't want to do that. And that's terrible. And I can't live with that. And so I just felt for everyone who had the thoughts that I had, but didn't have any of the education or context that I had. Like, I literally don't understand how people make it out alive. And we know that sometimes they don't, and that's tragic, right? But I don't know how how not everybody goes crazy, because I know how awful I felt and how in the trenches I felt. And I had all this glorious
resources. Yeah.
And I never felt alone. I never really even felt the shame because I knew what it was. I knew what it was.
Right.
And there are people out there who don't have that. And they're just walking around life like the freaking badass that they actually are. Like, I have goosebumps, like, thinking about it. You're telling me that you don't have any of the context that I have for what the heck this is. And you're just like living your life.
Just
like,
going.
That's incredible to me.
Yeah.
And I have
you're
to
married.
help
You might have other kids. You have other roles. You're
like,
at work.
Seriously, I have goosebumps.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you functioning? How did you not go crazy? Or how did you not hurt? Like, honestly. So I was like, I have to help them. I have to help them. And the thing that has always been so wild to me is that we know that OCD, according to the World Health Organization, right? Like, we know that it is one of the top 10 most debilitating conditions in the world. And that is absolutely true. It definitely can be. But we also know that exposure and response prevention, according to mass amounts of literature and lit reviews on the subject that ERP is more effective for OCD than any other treatments for any other disorder.
Yeah.
Like that calculation to me does not jive.
Right. It's
that
highly
we have
treatable.
This condition.
Yeah.
Yeah. That we have this condition that if left untreated is super debilitating, but we have the treatment and it works and it's super, super solid and nothing is perfect, but this is pretty much as close as you could freaking get.
Yeah.
So it's not an OCD problem. It's an access to care problem.
Right. Wow.
And so I was like, I can't see all these people one-on-one, obviously. Like there are so many logistical problems too. Like at the time I was just licensed in Wisconsin. It's so hard to get licensed in other states, which is just a whole other conversation that I could like freak out about.
That's a whole podcast episode. Definitely.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous.
I feel like once I get licensed in all of the states, which is not my goal anyway, they'll be like, just kidding. We're getting rid of it.
National licensure. Here it is. Yeah.
Like the day that I got my swipe up feature on Instagram because I hit 10,000, they gave it to everyone.
I know. I had a
I'm
similar
like, this is the
situation.
story of my life. This is the story of my life. The day that I pay off my student loans, they're going to forgive them.
Right. I totally understand. I feel like, anyway, we could talk about student loans too, but I'm waiting for that 10,000. Right. Yeah.
But, yeah. So I was like, Instagram, and I hated Instagram, dude. Like I was always like pre-pandemic. I was always that person. I didn't have Snapchat. I refused TikTok. If my screen time went above 10 minutes a day or 15 minutes a day, like I thought like my spirituality is all messed up now. Like I should have been meditating.
That's incredible. You don't want to know how many hours a day I have.
Now it's like 8 hours, right? Because it's my job. But yeah. But I was like, also, if I have any chance at ever meeting any of my goals, like this is where people are going. This is where therapy is going. With the pandemic, especially, everything was going online. And I knew if I had any chance of succeeding, I had to get over what I wanted and I had to set a foundation for my goals and my business. And so I started an Instagram, totally no pressure. I told myself, as long as I'm having fun with it, that's how I'm succeeding. Like I measured my success in the form of, are you having fun? Like as long as you're having fun and as long as you feel like this is a creative outlet for you, because as therapists, like unless you're an art therapist and maybe you make those opportunities.
You don't get that many creative outlets. Yeah.
Yeah. Like again, using your brain in a different way. So it was fun for me. It was always just fun for me. Podcast was the same thing.
Yeah.
And it was nothing. I got nothing out of it for 2 years. And then all of a sudden, it was Instagram subscriptions. It was actually something as silly as Instagram subscriptions. I got Instagram subscriptions.
Yeah, you're really active on your I've noticed that because I like have a little group of therapist friends who like are building, followings, and we text and we group message. And you are often the subject of the group message being like, she is killing it at subscriptions. Like, we need to be doing more. We need to be doing more. Because as I subscribe to your page and as a subscriber, I'm like, oh, I'm getting a lot out of this subscription.
Good. That's amazing. It makes me so happy.
Yeah.
But in the first month, I got 600 subscribers.
Holy shit, dude.
Which I don't know. I'd have to look back, but it was $2,000. It was like $2,000.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
and
wild.
I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like I did nothing. I post a story a day, right? Like I try to be motivating, or like I do some behind the scenes stuff. I go live once a week, which I was doing anyway. I just now did it for my subscribers. Yeah. I did some discounts on the other things that I offer. Got 600 subscribers. And I still dude. Like, I think I still maintain about 450 to 500.
Right.
And that was the first recognition of mine that like, holy I think I'm sitting on something here. Like, I think I have something.
Yeah.
And it was like the culmination of like, wow, maybe those 2 years weren't just for fun. Like maybe I was working on something and it can be my, like I can do something with it, right?
This could be a company.
It was my first, like it was my first recognition that like, holy cow, like if I gave a little bit more to this, like I could actually monetize this and I could reach people in a different way. At that time though, this was in 2022. So this wasn't long ago. This was like in
Yeah,
November
no,
of
subscription came out
2022.
like not that long ago. So where were you at in terms of your following at that point? Like where, do you remember?
I want to say that I had like 25. I remember last summer I had 25,000-ish. And then probably by like November or December, maybe like 30 or 35,000. I think right now at the time of this podcast, it's April. I'm at 44,000, which isn't even like a huge audience, right? But I'm like a big advocate of, I don't care how big your audience is. You got to love on that community hard.
100%. Okay. So first of all, 45 is a big following, especially I think in therapy land. You know, I mean, like we're not talking Beyonce land, you know, where it's like 5 million, but in like the therapist arena, if you look at like therapist influencers, that is a big following. But I agree with you that like no matter what size your audience is, you know, like I joined that what's the new app called Lemonade a few days ago.
God.
It sounded like it was a whole nother conversation.
It's really cool.
It is. Join me because there's like no therapist on there and let's like figure it out together.
Take over the world.
Let's take over Lemonade. But I have like 33 followers on that app. But like because I only have 33, I give it all. You know, I'm like, here you go. There's 33 of us. Let's do this. And in a way, it's refreshing because it's more intimate versus my bigger following on Instagram. And I'm like, you know, 40 something. And I'm like, but like over here, there's only 30 of us. So like we have a different type of community, you know?
It's truly so much more about quality over quantity. Like, and 100%. That goes for emails too.
100%.
Totally goes to like, I know another therapist in my niche who has maybe half of the Instagram followers that I do, but he has 6 times the amount of email subscribers. And email subscribers are where your conversions are, right? Like that's email your warmest audience. Yeah. Right. Email is gold. So like there's just, that's too like where the comparisons come in. Like you have to just have that tunnel vision and you have to have the blinders 100%. On. Like you just got to focus on loving your community. And so at that time, November of 2022, I was still working full time for my job at the time. It was for a tech company, right? Which we could have a whole nother convo about that too. But it was for a mental health tech company. And there were lots of reasons why I wasn't happy, but I was also very secure. I had benefits. I had a good salary. I thought that was like the best that I could make it. But I also realized, having now started to monetize my own following, it's like, wow, I wonder how much more I could monetize it. And of course I say monetize, but I also, of course, within that mean reach more people and make an impact, right? Like it's not all about the money, but it is somewhat about the money. We got to
you have to live, right? Yeah.
I would never be able to give the way that I give if I wasn't being paid.
Right. Of course.
And so I was like, wow, I wonder how much more I could monetize this and how much more I could grow if I wasn't spending 40 or 50 hours a week building someone else's brand. And that really that set some wheels in motion. And that's when I started like really following you and really starting to imagine like, what could this look like? And so that was like maybe mid-November. A lot of other things happened. And again, it was just very serendipitous that like it was last straw after last straw.
Yeah.
And I told them, you know, in the beginning of December that if I have to give up everything as of today, I will. Like, I'm done. I need to do this for myself. Like, I can no longer sacrifice my own brand and my own opportunities to give back to this brand. Like, I don't know that you're going to have my back. And so I did stay on to help and like tie up loose ends. So it ended on great terms. But yeah, since then I've been 100% on my own, doing my own thing. And it's been incredible. I quadrupled my monthly income in the first month.
Holy shit, dude. Holy shit. Okay, so let's talk about your streams. So we're talking about Instagram subscriptions. We're talking about online courses, workshops, therapy. Mm-hmm. What am I missing?
A couple others. So I do get a little bit of monetization from my podcast. It's not a lot. It's like $100 a month. But hey, I'll take what I can get.
Yeah,
right?
I'll take what I can. So I'm like at break even on my podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's great. So I have a little bit from my podcast. I had my Instagram subscriptions. At the time, I also had Reels bonus, which again was like $100 or $200 a month, but it adds up.
Right.
So I'll take it.
Why would they do with our Reels bonuses? I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
I know.
Lame.
Yeah. So what else? But I had some workshops / like single digital courses, like the live workshops is where I really got a lot of that's like where the bulk of my income comes from.
People love a live
hosting
workshop.
These live workshops.
Yeah.
And then of course they get them later, but then I also have them on my website as evergreen so they can purchase them at any time. So that's always really great. And so a lot like the bottom of my funnel is like going back to this library where they can essentially like purchase some of the workshops. But what else did I have? I had a lot of just like brand deals, like obviously just making sure that I pair with things that fit my, my interests and my audience and stuff like that, trying to be conscientious of that. I also started to do some business consulting. So like as I started to grow, I had a couple other therapists reach out to me and they wanted my help with how to do a podcast or how to do Instagram. Yeah. So that started. And I think I had this like very strong scarcity mindset at first. So I was like, all of the private practice clients come to me. And I promised myself in this transition, I was like, Jenna, when you book 10 private pay clients, because I didn't want to accept insurance. That's again, like another podcast, right? I didn't want to accept insurance. I was like, Jenna, it was a Friday. And I said, Jenna, as soon as you book 10 private pay clients, you can quit your job. And I thought it would take months. It took me 1 weekend because of my Instagram following. And so I was like, shit, this is getting real. This is getting real. And I set it out to my subscribers first. Like I'm always thinking, who is my warmest audience?
Right.
And at that time, I didn't even have email. At the time, I did not even have email.
Wow, dude.
So as of like December, I did not even have an email or like a freebie or anything.
Yeah.
So like my hottest leads at that time were my Instagram subscribers. And so I did everything for them. And then I generated obviously a freebie and an opt-in and all was part of my funnel too.
Wow.
Yeah. Lots of little things at the top of that funnel, but it all comes back down to, trying to get people to sign up for live workshops. And I'm working on some other fun things in the future too, but.
So do you have anyone that helps you? Or are you DIY all of it or how do you do it?
I just recently, probably within the past month, hired 2 virtual assistants. And they've been awesome. They've been great. I'm like a control freak.
Me too.
It always occurred to me like, well, what would I have them do? It's just easier for me to do it. It's just easier for me to do it versus having to teach them and whatever. And I knew that the 40 hours ish a week that I was doing and contributing to my own company, which you and I both know it's probably way more than that, right? Like you work way more than 40. You quit your full-time job so you don't work 40 hours a week.
More.
So that to work like 24/7, right? But I knew I was like those 40 hours a week, like I cannot get any more high quality, like I would spend my time and my talent doing things that somebody else can't do for me.
Content.
Like my virtual assistant can't show up to this podcast.
Yeah. Right.
My virtual
you're the
assistant
talent.
can't.
This is like what my team will say to me, like, you're the talent. I'm like, oh my God, I hate that. But you're the talent. Like you're
the face of the brand. You're the
10
voice.
hours making an email funnel. That's 10 hours you're not recording video.
Exactly. And like if I spend, 2 hours scheduling my social media posts, like that's 2 hours. I could have filmed probably 4 podcasts in that time.
Right.
So it just really, I was like, I have to bite the bullet here. And it ended up being a really great, experience. We're still really early into it. And, I think it's really important to train them, right? Like we have a kind of like a standard operating procedure folder, like where I loomed everything so they can constantly refer back to it. So I took the training piece of it really seriously. But yeah, it's been a really great experience. I cannot even think more than a week ahead of my life at this point, but it's really crazy to think about where things could be a year from now. And I'm sure you feel the same way.
Hey, therapists. Are you listening to the show and thinking, I really want to launch my own private practice, but I have no idea where to start? Make sure to check out Kelley's Private Practice Roadmap course. In the course, Kelley gives you the exact steps you need to open your own thriving practice. You can find the link below in the show notes.
It's really cool to see the therapy industry continue to open up in different avenues for entrepreneurship, and I think just people having courage to get out there, and try different platforms and try different things. And you had said off camera that you were thinking, or that you're going to switch to Kajabi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you on now?
So I was using something called Digital Course Hive, and it was in my early stages again, like back in November. So like my mind, I see like all these invoices and I'm like, wow, November, like you can tell I was spinning my wheels. I was spinning my wheels in November.
Yeah.
So I was researching and I did all the trials. Kajabi was just so confusing to me at the time.
Yeah, it's hard to learn. Yeah.
It's hard to learn. And it like wasn't intuitive and it's not as customizable, right? Like you only have so many opportunities with fonts and colors and stuff.
Right.
And I wanted it to be like this aesthetically pleasing thing and everything on brand. And I was much more intrigued by how things looked. And that's important. But come to find out, like my website was just not thoughtful. Like it wasn't drawing people to the end of that funnel, which is to buy my workshops. Like,
right.
It was basically like a buffet of just resources.
Right.
Which is like, no, I don't want you to go to the buffet. I want you to buy like the $89 steak dinner. Like,
right.
Like I want to do it. So I just needed something more thoughtful. And I have come to learn through like, tried to do like some business courses. I love if I could do a shout out to the Social Bungalow.
Oh, okay.
Social Bungalow.
We'll send me the link and we'll put it below.
Yeah.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Social Bungalow, Shannon Matson. She has taught me so much about business and just being very thoughtful about launches. So she has something called the Live Launch Academy. Like before you launch something, you can't just like announce it on your social media, right? Like there's a launch period and there's like, where you have to kind of like prime your audience and then you like set some Easter eggs and you get them excited and, you handle objections to this purchase ahead of time so that by the time they do hear about the purchase, they're like, I needed this yesterday.
Right.
And like, I don't have a business background, but I feel like I have put in a lot of effort to try to learn it. And from a user perspective, I love Kajabi. Yeah. I love it. Like it's so nice. Yeah. It's like psychologically, it's just like, like, and from like a psychological standpoint, like I know that that's probably what my audience is most comfortable with. So it's like how from a developer standpoint, like me, I hate it. Like I absolutely hate it, but I know that my audience probably likes it.
I do. I think it's nice as a user. Like all the parenting courses I've taken on Kajabi as the student, as the consumer, and I like it because there's an app and it's easy, and but I agree with you that as a creator, it's not intuitive in the same way that other places are. But I do think it gets so I used it for the last couple years, and actually we just switched away from it because my team likes using something else, and I hired a team to help me, and we switched to ThriveCart. But by the time I got to about a year in with Kajabi, I felt like, okay, I can do everything. Like I know what I'm doing. It's fine. Like you do, there's a learning curve and it's not intuitive. So I feel like it's a harder learning curve than other programs. But then you get so used to it that you're just like, oh, okay, this is where I can host my online course.
I think that has been one of my biggest lessons is like, you're not gonna learn everything right now. Yeah. Like, you're not gonna know. I'm not like I think yesterday I got the growth annual plan. Yeah. And I'm freaking out. I'm up until 2:00 in the morning. Like I have to figure out my email list and I have to get all my tags right. And I have to do this and I have to make sure everything looks good and there are no typos. And it's like, just breathe. Like, do the most important things. Right. You're not going to get it all done today. Like this is stuff that people pay thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for. And it takes like 6 to 8 weeks. Like, like there's a reason why this stuff is so important. And like, you just have to be patient with yourself. Like you will learn it. Yeah. You will get there and it's not going to be all in one day and it's not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like it has to be done. It has to be done. And you can go back and you can make it better as you go and as you grow. But so I have Kajabi for like my courses and my master classes and my digital products. But my website is on Show It.
Yeah.
And that is another lesson that I have learned, is that I would love to know your thoughts on this too.
Yeah.
I think as a beginner, it's very intriguing to want one of those all-in-one options.
Yeah.
Like what I was using before, Digital Course Hive, it was all in one, and it was cheaper than Kajabi. And I loved the Digital Course Hive.
Yeah.
Like it got me to a great place in my business.
Right.
And it was amazing for what I needed it for at the time.
Right.
But it was all in one. Email was there. All the forms were there. The store was there. Everything was there. The website, everything. But sometimes you get what you pay for, right? Like sometimes you get what you pay for. And, you know, it might seem silly. Like, yes, I could host my website entirely on Kajabi. I'm also at the point in my business, like I want to make decisions for my business 5 years from now, not today. Like, I want to make decisions for my business. Like I want to grow into my business. Like I don't want to just cut corners and get something that's going to get me through the next quarter. I want to make really wise and smart decisions, even if it comes with a hefty price tag. Like I know that I'm going to use Kajabi for a year. Like I know that I'm going to use Kajabi for a year. Like that is a solid decision that I've made. Show It. I have Show It and then I have Kajabi. That might seem silly to some people to have two separate like payments that I have to make. But it also is going to create something that I can use forever. And like 5 years from now, Jenna is not going to regret that decision.
Yeah, I don't think you are. And I have so many reasons why. Okay. So I did the same exact thing, except for I did it with Kajabi. So Kajabi can be an all-in-one. So for anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, Kajabi is a platform where you can host online courses, you can host membership sites, you can host your website, your email list. It's an all-in-one, right? So when I first started, I did the same thing. I put everything into Kajabi. I did a lot of research. And then I don't know, 2 years into my whatever same thing journey that you're on, I hired somebody to help me with my SEO. And they were like, no, on Kajabi. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, and they're like, you could host your online courses there. Great for hosting online courses, not great for websites. Now, like Kajabi, please don't sue me.
And it's so frustrating because we just want like one cheap thing that's going to be perfect for everything.
And,
but it's kind of like therapy too.
Yeah.
I could like to tie this all back to therapy, right? Like if you're good at everything, you're not really good at anything.
Yeah, Kajabi is great for online courses. I loved it as a user. And like you can use Kajabi and not use their website. And
that's what I do.
Like, yeah. And a lot of people do it. And I would have done it except for, a variety of things. So my team was like, we need to switch out of Kajabi for this website. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. I just spent, because I hired somebody to create my Kajabi site and I thought it was beautiful. I think it is beautiful. I mean, I still think it's beautiful. It still exists out there somewhere, just not live on the internet. And I had to then be like, oh, I'm going to hire someone to create me a custom site. And that's expensive. But I knew, just like you're saying, business 5 years from now needs better SEO. My SEO.
Yeah.
I can't only be driving traffic to my online courses and my website and everything through social media. Like I've got to have, like that's the point of where I'm at in my business is like, we've got to expand and diversify not away from, but in addition to Instagram, because God forbid something happens with Instagram and 80% of my sales are coming from there, So I did the same thing. So I switched away from Kajabi and then I hired somebody to build me a custom site, which is great. Now it exists. It's its own land. And then because we switched away from Kajabi, we were like, why are we paying the price tag for Kajabi if we're not using the website feature? So then we switched the courses to Thrivecart. But I would have stayed in Kajabi. I didn't have an issue with the Kajabi course part of it. But same thing. And then for my emails, I was using Kajabi and I switched out of Kajabi for emails and went into ConvertKit. So
that was my thing too. I transitioned, again, this just happened like within the past week. I transitioned from my all-in-one digital course live. I knew that I wanted Kajabi, but I didn't want the website. So I knew that I would have to get Show It, which is completely customizable.
Right.
10 out of 10 recommend. I love Show It. I've been loving Show It so much. And it like gave me the website of my freaking dreams, and the customer service has been incredible.
That's awesome.
But I'm like, I also take my emails really seriously. Like, I don't know if Kajabi will have the capabilities, but I also was like, one thing at a time, right? Like moving the website and moving the courses, that was the bulk of the work. If I wanted to move my emails, I don't really have fancy templates. I don't have a whole lot of automations. If I wanted to elevate and go to ConvertKit, which was the one that I would have used too, then I will do that. Like, that's not as much. So it's just like, it's kind of that perfect balance between like, just like making smart decisions, but also you have to kind of be willing to spend money to make money. Like,
I mean, it's like annoying to pay. Well, now because Kajabi is so expensive, I actually pay the same amount even though I'm on 3 platforms. But the only reason I switched out of, we're getting way into like online course shop talk. We could switch way in a minute. But the only reason I switched to ConvertKit from Kajabi, I liked Kajabi emails, but was because by that point, it wasn't worth it to pay for. We switched everything. We got rid of Kajabi, essentially, just because of the price tag. So I had no issue with Kajabi emails. Our only issue was with the website, SEO stuff. But you're right. It's like and that was such a huge lesson for me, because my team kept on saying like, we have to make the switch. And it was an investment, because it's not just the investment of paying for 3 platforms. It's also the time and the setup and the switching platforms is, well, in my mind, it was a nightmare. It turned out to not be a nightmare. But what I thought was, I'm going to spend the next 3 months doing this, and I'm not making any money from doing this. I'm just doing it, But you have to make those decisions for your business 4 or 5 years from now that you're not necessarily getting paid for in the moment,
Yeah. Like these are just all growing pains too.
Yeah.
And like, this is what people need to know when they go on their own, but it is so enjoyable, right? Like I worked all day yesterday. I swear to you, probably from 9 a.m. until 1 o'clock in the morning, nonstop. I missed my son's karate class, which is not like me, but everything was going live and links weren't working. And I was like, I got to get this sucker up and going. So it was just like go time.
Yeah.
But guess what? That was me.
Yeah.
All of that work is coming back to me. It's not going to it's not going to a mental health tech company. It's not going to a group practice. It's coming to me.
Yeah.
Like, all of that work comes back to me. And so like that time when you're your own brand and when you're owning your own company and your own business, like that work, it might seem like, oh yeah, like I didn't make any sales yesterday.
Right.
Because I like links were freaking broken and I was too busy, figuring out SEO and writing in alt text and copying and pasting URLs and doing things that like I wasn't on social. I wasn't making emails that were designed to sell. But today it's looking great, right? Like, so you just have to kind of take it all in stride, and the work that's being done that you're investing, like it will pay off. Maybe not right now, but it will pay off eventually. And it's so
like you're
rewarding
creating
to be
that
able to do it
foundation for you. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's like, I could not agree more. I think of it like you're laying a brick down but you get to keep the brick. You're building the house. Whereas like I had a similar thing. I worked for another company and felt like I'm building your brand, and then I'm eventually going to walk away, and there's going to be nothing other than I got paid, obviously, which is great. But I think when you're creating your own company, whether it's a private practice or an online course business or whatever, you get this chance to build something that you keep, ideally. Or if maybe you sell it, I don't know. But when we build these brands around ourselves, like that's harder. But yeah, it's amazing. Well, okay. So the last question I like to always end with is, when you think about your career 10, 20 years from now, not like where are you going to be tomorrow, but what are you hoping for, Jenna? What do you want for you?
I love this question. Again, like I just got like full body shivers. So, and like I get a visual of little Jenna. Like I get a visual of little Jenna and like the way that she wanted to be there, like amping people up and teaching people and walking the talk and all that stuff. I also think of Jenna, like that day when she found out about ERP, like I just wanted to, I wanted everything. Right. So it would be so cool to me if within the OCD community, I could kind of be a recognized figure, like I have recognized figures, right? Like John Hirschfield, Jonathan Grayson, Eric Storch, Dr. Reed Wilson, like all of these people, like I love and I have been following, like, and reading more about and trying to learn from since I was in college. Like I would love to be that. And not because of like the notoriety that comes with it or the sense of authority, but like I want to help inspire people and teach people the way that they've taught me. Like I love giving people those aha moments and those light bulb moments. I love making people feel empowered. I love the feeling myself and also seeing it in other people. I love getting them to believe like that's going to be scary, but I can do it. I love getting people to think that. Like that is the coolest thing ever. Like if I could be known enough so that I could have that kind of impact on more people, that would be the dream. Like that would be the absolute dream. And I don't know, people reach out to me on Instagram all the time and they're like, you saved my life. Like, I'm so glad that I found you. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that you responded. Like you're a celebrity to me. And I'm like, I literally am sitting here in my shorts. I haven't shaved in like 3 months. Like, I am not special. Like I never want to lose like that humbleness.
Yeah.
Because little Jenna, like this is all little Jenna ever wanted. Like she just wanted to be able to teach people and empower people in a mass scale type of way. And it's happening. Like it's
happening, dude.
I remember attending the International OCD Foundation conference when I was a freshman in college, which was like, I had a poster presentation and I was so like giddy about it. It's like, oh my gosh, I get to go to the IOCDF and present a poster. Oh my God, I'm so excited. And I wanted to talk one day. Like I wanted to talk one day at the conference. I wanted to give a presentation. I just thought that would be like the stars aligned and I will have met like my top of the hierarchy and Maslow's hierarchy. And this year I'm doing 4. Like I'm doing 4. I'm so like it's great. It's so great. Which by the way, last year when I was working for that mental health tech company, I only had 1. I'm on my own now and I have 4. Like
holy
moral
shit,
of the
dude.
Story is you can do so much more on your own.
Oh
like
yeah, 100%.
I just beg people out there to be very mindful that those 40 hours a week that you're working, imagine what you could do in 40 hours a week for yourself.
It was for you.
Like imagine you could be building a social platform. You could be getting people to know, like, and trust you. You could be creating an email opt-in. You could be, learning about how to do the right kind of copy for emails and converting. And like, there's so much that you can do. And I just would be so sad if someone out there was afraid and they continue to spend 40 hours a week not trying to get their way out and giving that time and giving that talent to somebody else because it's never going to come back. It's never going to come back and have them see the rewards of that.
I love all of this. And, I totally meant to say this at the beginning of the podcast, but I think it's perfect for right now as we end. The way I heard about you is my husband has OCD. He speaks very openly about it so he's a psychiatrist and he's also a stand-up comedian and does a lot of stand-up comedy about OCD and his experience with OCD. And so we were on the couch one night watching TV and he was like, you have to follow this person, Jenna. She talks about OCD in a way that I've never heard talked about before. And as a psychiatrist with OCD, like she's the real deal, and
that makes me so happy.
And it was crazy because I already followed you. And I was like, I already follow her, like whatever. And then that night, I think I messaged you and then you responded. And I was like, I felt like that. I felt like celebrity. She responded to me like, holy shit, and so in
the same way about
you are a celebrity.
But I think the coolest part about that to me is like OCD is so complicated, right?
So
in some ways it's
complicated.
very simple and we overcomplicate it, which I get into in some of the stuff that I talk about, but it's so misunderstood and it's so maddening and it's so debilitating. The best gift that I could give people and the best compliment that I could receive is that I have explained it in a way that nobody has heard before.
Right. Well, and that's what Sam will say to me. He's like, he explains it in a way that's true. You know, because I noticed with him, he gets frustrated by the misconceptions and by just other professionals in our field and the way they talk about OCD in a way that doesn't make sense or that isn't true or whatever. And he's like, no, she's the real deal.
It's just like very superficial, right? Like common OCD subtypes. Like I like to think that I go deeper.
Oh, 100%. Like your stories get long, man. I watch the whole thing because I'm like, yes, but you go deep in it. And I love it, you know, and especially for subscribers who are there for the content, who are not just there to be entertained, but who are there to be helped, you know? It's huge. I love it.
Thanks. Again, like there are times where I'm like, oh my gosh, like it's not just my grandma following me anymore. This isn't just for fun anymore. Like people are actually seeing it. It's really wonderful, but it will never get old. Like, I hope I get to do this forever. My husband always makes fun of me. He's like, what are you going to do when you're 60 or 70? I was like, I don't know. Figure it out. Like, I'll figure it out.
I'm going to be on Lemonade. So the new, I think about that all the time too. I'm like, I'm on social media now. Like, am I going to age into this? But like, well, it'll be fine. We just evolve. We got to join the new shit.
Right.
Right. Who knows?
There will be something else. Right. Yeah. There will be something else. We'll figure it out. We're good at, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Or hopefully you'll make enough passive income that you'll just be living on that. Who knows?
That would be incredible.
That's the goal, right? Anyway. All right, Jenna, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I could talk to you for 3 hours and we'll have to do a part 2 sometime.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Okay, so we're going to put all of just for everyone listening, we will put all of Jenna's contact information, socials, everything in the show notes for this so you can find her. And just so everyone knows, Jenna, where do they find you on Instagram? What's your handle?
I am on Instagram at jenna.overbaugh. So just my first and last name with a dot in the middle. And then, my website is www.jennaoverbauglpc.com.
Perfect. All right. We'll talk soon.
Therapists, do you want more clients at your full cash rate? Mentaya is a platform that navigates out-of-network benefits for clients. They get clients on average 70% back on therapy by filing claims and chasing down insurance companies. They handle literally everything so that you can focus on what matters. Click the link in the show notes to learn more and get 1 month free using the code PRO.
Hello, everyone. Let's get into this week's Ask Kelley Anything. Remember, you can give me a call anytime, leave a voicemail, and I will answer your burning private practice questions. So here's today's question.
Hi, Kelley. My name's Samantha, and I am a therapist, an MFT in private practice. And I have a question about, I'm looking into automating my consult calls, clients who are interested in seeing me, but we want to chat about if it's a good fit or not. And I'm curious if how I automate that information, what app I use to do that needs to be HIPAA compliant. Since it's, client names and often I assume phone numbers that they'll be giving me through that. My thought is that it is, but since they're not technically my clients yet because it's just a consult call, I'm curious if that needs to fall within the HIPAA standards. Thank you so much. I love the content that you put out in your podcast and look forward to hearing what you think.
All right. This is a great question, and I think it actually has an easy answer. So what this person is asking is they want to automate their client phone calls for that initial phone call because sometimes people want to chat more. I'm assuming what you're saying here is that you want a way for clients to schedule themselves to have that initial phone call with you rather than just leaving you a voicemail. So I think that the easiest way to do that is actually through your website. One of our sponsors for this podcast is Simple Practice, and they have a way to do this where clients can self-schedule on your Simple Practice calendar, and you can set it up that way. So actually what I recommend using is Simple Practice because it is HIPAA compliant. Rather than having some sort of answering service or something like that, I think doing it through your website and being able to say on your voicemail, if you'd like to go ahead and schedule yourself, check out my website, and then using that scheduling app or a scheduling widget through Simple Practice, I think would be a really great option. So I would suggest going over there and looking at all their tools because I think that would be an easy way to do it. All right, I hope this helps.
If you would like to be featured on Ask Kelley Anything, I love getting listener questions from you guys. Anything about private practice goes. And the best way to do that is actually just to give me a call and leave me a question on my voicemail. So I'm going to tell you the phone number right now and make sure to write it down. Here it is, 805-243-8241. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.